That Christmas night, the snow was still falling when I stepped into Ethan's house with a bag of groceries in my hands. I barely had time to take off my coat before Laura appeared at the top of the stairs, arms crossed, smile tight and polished like glass. "You're early," she noted, eyes sliding over me. "We weren't expecting extra guests." Ethan walked out from the kitchen, avoiding my eyes. "Mom, tonight's just family." I let the words sit in the air. "I am family." Laura's laugh fluttered like cold wind. "Of course, but we planned something intimate. You understand." I watched Ethan's jaw tighten, not in defense, in agreement. "So," Laura continued, "why don't you head back home? We'll bring you leftovers tomorrow." My fingers curled around the grocery bag handle. "I cooked for all of you." "We ordered catering," Laura interrupted, brushing imaginary dust off her sweater. "Professional food. It's better for everyone." Vivian emerged from the dining room then, draped in silver, the kind of woman who always sounded like she was blessing you while stepping on your dignity. "Nora, dear, holidays can be overwhelming for older people. You should rest. Leave the big gatherings to the young." Ethan shifted. "It's late, Mom. Let's not make this complicated." Snowlight from the doorway hit his face, and for the first time, I saw it clearly. He wasn't conflicted. He wanted me gone. I set the grocery bag down gently, the way you place something that no longer belongs to anyone. "Understood." And I stepped back into the cold. The next evening, I returned because Ethan had texted, "Come for dinner, we need to talk." Short, cold, but still an invitation. I walked in hoping for clarity. Instead, I stepped straight into an ambush wrapped in table linens. The dining room glowed with warm light, but every face at the table froze the moment they saw me. Laura looked up first, eyebrows arched high. "Oh, you actually came." Her tone landed like a slap wrapped in velvet. "We weren't sure you'd get the message in time." Vivian lifted her wineglass with slow elegance. "Punctuality can be unpredictable at a certain age," she murmured, offering me a smile sharpened like a blade. I took the empty chair. Ethan didn't stand, didn't welcome me. His eyes flicked to my seat like he was placing a stranger. Once I sat, Laura waved to the waiter hovering near the doorway. "She'll just have water." My gaze met hers. "I'll have the roasted chicken and hot tea." Laura exhaled dramatically. "Tea during dinner? That's different." Vivian leaned forward slightly. "Some people cling to old habits when life becomes unstable." Ethan cleared his throat. "Can we not do this right now?" Laura tapped her fork on her plate, each click a tiny insult. "We're simply making conversation." Vivian joined in smoothly. "We care about Nora, truly, but we need to be realistic. Losing a job at her age, it's concerning." A quiet laugh floated out of Laura. "And honestly, Ethan, we all know who'll pick up the slack." My pulse stayed steady. "You seem very sure I'm a burden." Laura's smile widened. "Everyone has their role." "Good," Vivian added. "And once we arrange something suitable for you, things will run smoothly again." Ethan kept his eyes on his plate, shoulders tight, silent in all the ways that mattered. I watched them, the arrogance, the entitlement, the way they'd already decided my place in their world. And at that table, under warm lights and cold stares, the final thread snapped. They thought they were humiliating me. They had no idea they were digging their own graves. The plates had barely been cleared when Ethan leaned back, arms crossed, eyes avoiding mine. "Mom, since you're not working, maybe you can help with the mortgage for a while." There it was, the real reason for dinner. Laura didn't even wait a heartbeat. "And we'll need help with the nanny, of course. Babies aren't cheap." She lifted her wineglass, watching me over the rim. "You want to be supportive, right?" My chest tightened, but not from pain, from clarity. "Supportive," I repeated softly. Laura nodded quickly. "Exactly. After all, you don't have many expenses, and you've always been helpful." Vivian adjusted her necklace. "Everyone contributes in their own way. For some, it's wisdom. For others—" Her eyes slid to me. "Money makes more sense." A humorless breath escaped me. So that's what I am now? Ethan finally met my eyes. Mom, don't make this dramatic. We're just asking for help. Karen's daughter-in-law, at work, had once told her the same thing before draining her savings dry. That memory flickered through me like a warning flare. Laura leaned in. Honestly, you should have expected this. You quit your job without thinking. You knew we were planning a family. My jaw tightened. I didn't quit. I was let go. Laura shrugged. Same difference. You're home now. You have time. And it's not like you were bringing in a 6-figure salary anyway. Ethan's face reddened slightly, but he didn't object. He let her words stand. My voice dropped to a steady, cool line. I'm your mother, not your ATM. Laura laughed. A sharp, dismissive sound. At your age, you should be grateful anyone wants you around. Ethan scratched his temple, discomfort flickering, but he stayed quiet. Something inside me settled. Cold, clear, final. That's how you see me, I murmured. Laura lifted her shoulders in a careless shrug. People need to know their place. I rose from the table slowly, chair sliding back against the hardwood. The room fell silent, all eyes on me. You've mistaken my kindness for obligation, I replied, voice steady, and my love for a blank check. Ethan's brow furrowed. Mom, don't start. I'm 62, I cut in. Not your bank, not your babysitter, not your safety net. Laura rolled her eyes. Here we go. No, I continued, calm as frost. Here I go. Finally. Their confidence cracked, just slightly, when they saw my expression. That night, something irreversible shifted. Not because they asked for money, but because they believed they were entitled to me. Vivian folded her napkin with the calm of someone preparing a lesson. Nora, dear, women your age deserve stability. There's a senior home nearby. Lovely place. Quiet. Safe. They always need extra hands. Laura's face brightened as if the idea were a gift. Oh, that could work. You'd get a small paycheck, room, meals, and you wouldn't burden anyone. My fork paused midair. Burden. Again. Vivian continued gently, as if soothing a child. Work is good for the soul. And imagine, surrounded by people your age. You might even make friends. Laura nodded eagerly. Honestly, it's better than you just sitting around here, and you wouldn't have to worry about bills. Win-win, right? Ethan's silence pressed on the room like humidity, heavy and cowardly. He kept his gaze on his empty plate. I studied their faces one by one. Vivian, smug. Laura, hopeful. Ethan, absent. The three of them looked at me the way someone looks at a broken appliance. Useful if repaired, otherwise toss it. Interesting, I murmured. Vivian smiled like a cat. We only want what's best for you. Laura leaned forward. And for us, you staying here long-term isn't realistic. A dry breath escaped me. Realistic. Vivian clasped her hands. You could start as early as next week. I can make some calls. Laura added softly, You'd fit right in. My eyes flicked toward her. Fit in? She pushed a strand of hair behind her ear, feigning innocence. Well, most women there are retired or, without direction. A slow heat spread in my chest. Not anger, but awakening. So I'd clean floors, I noted. Serve meals, maybe change linens? Vivian nodded approvingly. Exactly. It's honest work. Dignified, for someone in your situation. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. He didn't defend. He didn't even blink. My voice dropped to a razor-thin line. Tell me something, Vivian. Why is my situation always whatever makes your daughter comfortable? Vivian pretended confusion. We're simply being practical. Laura gestured lazily. Mom's right. You don't need a big life anymore. You need routine, structure. And distance, I added. Neither of them denied it. Vivian's smile sharpened. Look at it this way, Nora. You've worked hard your whole life. This is a soft landing. Soft landing. A senior home kitchen. after raising their child, after paying their mortgage, after feeding their pride. I pushed my chair back slowly. The leg scraped the floor, a sound that sliced straight through Laura's composure. "This?" I asked quietly. "This is your version of help?" Laura shrugged. "We're offering solutions. You should be grateful." Vivian tapped the table. "Don't be stubborn. At your age, opportunities won't come twice." Ethan finally looked up. "Mom, maybe just consider it." There it was, the knife. Not from Vivian, not from Laura, from my own son. A calm settled in me, colder than winter air. "I've already worked enough houses for a lifetime," I replied, "and I'm done letting people decide where I belong." Vivian stiffened. Laura frowned. Ethan blinked. I stood, steady and tall. "Enjoy your evening." Their eyes followed me as I walked away, not with concern, not with love, but with the shock of losing control. And as the hallway swallowed the sound of their voices, a single truth crystallized. They weren't helping me. They were removing me. The house felt colder when I stepped back into the living room, as if the walls knew what was coming before I did. Ethan followed a moment later, shoulders tense, hands shoved deep into his pockets. Laura trailed behind him, arms folded like a queen ready to issue a decree. "Nora," she began softly, "we need to finish the conversation." I turned toward her. "No, you finished it the moment you decided where I should live." Ethan exhaled sharply. "Mom, don't twist things. We're trying to help." "Help?" I repeated. "By sending your mother to scrub dishes in a senior home?" Laura rolled her eyes. "It's not scrubbing dishes, it's structured support." "Call it whatever makes you feel kinder," I replied. Her mouth tightened. Ethan rubbed his temple. "Look, Mom, staying here long-term isn't realistic. We don't have space. We have a baby coming. We're stretched thin." I stared at the couch they bought last month, a luxury model I had paid for through loans they never repaid. Laura crossed the room, pointing at my suitcase near the hallway. "You packed earlier when you quit your job, right? We assumed you already had a plan." "I packed," I answered, "because I didn't want to bring my stress into your home." Laura smirked. "Funny how intentions work out." I felt the shift in the air, almost a signal. Ethan stepped forward. "Mom, maybe it's best if you look for a place tonight." The words landed like ice water. "Tonight," I murmured. Laura clasped her hands together. "It's not permanent. Just until you sort things out. Hotels exist." My eyes moved from her polished nails to Ethan's averted gaze. "And you think this is fair?" Ethan stiffened. "We warned you. We can't support another adult." "You're strong. You'll figure something out." Laura added, "You're not helpless." "No," I replied. "I'm not." A hush filled the room. Laura gave Ethan a small nod, as if giving him permission to finish it, and he did. "Mom, you need to go." The softness was gone. Every syllable was final. He reached down, grabbed my suitcase, and dragged it across the floor. The wheels hit each ridge in the wood like a countdown. Laura leaned on the doorway, arms folded, watching the scene with a mixture of triumph and relief. A lifetime flashed through my mind. His illnesses, the nights I worked double shifts, the lunches I skipped so he could have full meals, the promises he made when he was young. "One day, Mom, I'll take care of you." He no longer remembered those words. He set my suitcase by the front door. "There, it's better this way." Laura slipped beside him. "You'll be fine, Nora. You're tough." "Tough?" I stepped toward them. "You're mistaking survival for strength." Ethan shrugged. "Same thing." "No," I replied. "It isn't." Laura motioned toward the door. "You should get going. The roads will ice soon." The cruelty hid beneath her polite tone like a blade under silk. For a moment, I simply observed them. My son, tense and angry. My daughter-in-law, smug and impatient. Together, They looked like strangers wearing the faces of people I once loved. "I carried you," I whispered to Ethan, "when no one else would." He closed his eyes briefly. "Mom, don't make this harder than it is." "Harder for who?" My voice steadied. "For you?" Laura stepped in. "If you want dignity, leave with it." "Dignity," I repeated. "You know nothing about that word." Her chin lifted. "Believe what you want." Ethan held the door open, not gently, not kindly, just open. A command disguised as an option. Cold air swept into the hallway, brushing against my legs. Behind him, the Christmas tree glowed softly, warm lights dancing on ornaments I had bought the year he married Laura. A memory tried to surface, our laughter, our first holiday together, but it died before reaching the edge of my mind. I reached for the suitcase handle. Ethan stepped aside, clearing the path without meeting my eyes. Laura leaned against the doorframe. "Good luck, Nora." She said it like a farewell to someone irrelevant. I stepped into the night. Snowflakes drifted through the air, landing on my coat, small, bright reminders that the world outside was still wider than their narrow living room. Behind me, the door shut. Firm. Final. The sound echoed down the quiet street, one clean break between who I had been and who I would become. I gripped my suitcase, lifted my chin, and walked forward through the falling snow. They thought they ended something. They had no idea what they had started. Snow crunched under my boots as I crossed the motel parking lot, each step a dull echo of the door that had slammed behind me. The neon vacancy sign flickered against the falling snow, painting the empty lot with a tired, pale glow. I wasn't cold. Shock has its own temperature, quiet, numb, heavy. Inside, the motel room smelled of old heater coils and lemon cleanser. A single lamp hummed near the bed. I set my suitcase down and locked the door with a steady click. Silence pressed against the walls. Only then did my body let the truth settle. My son, my own flesh and memory, had thrown me out into Christmas night. I sat on the edge of the bed, letting the stillness wrap around me. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from a strange clarity building inside my chest. Something had ended tonight. Something had opened. My phone buzzed. A notification. A reminder. Package ready for pickup. Richard's final gift. My throat tightened. I rose, crossed the room, and retrieved the wooden box from my suitcase. I had carried it for days without opening it, too overwhelmed, too afraid of what it meant. Richard always worked with a long view of the world. He saw storms ahead before thunder formed in the sky. If he left this for me, he knew something. The box was handmade, dark walnut with a brass latch. Richard never gave cheap gifts. Even grief had its dignity in his world. I sat again, placed the box on my lap, and ran my thumb along the carved edge. For the first time since he passed, I let myself remember him clearly. His calm voice, his steady advice, the way he always treated me as an equal, even when the world didn't. "You always deserved more, little sister." That memory alone almost broke me. The latch clicked softly when I lifted it. Inside, the faint smell of cedar drifted up. Richard's cologne always had a hint of it. A folded envelope rested on top. Beneath it, cushioned in velvet, lay a silver key and 2 sets of official-looking documents. Light from the lamp struck the key's polished surface, sending a sharp reflection across the wall. My breath hitched. Snowpine Estate. The name was engraved right into the metal. Elegant. Unmistakable. The envelope trembled slightly in my hand as I opened it. Richard's handwriting, always neat, always patient, spread across the page. "Nora, if you are reading this, it means you finally stopped sacrificing yourself. Good. This world hasn't been kind to you, so I will be. Snowpine is yours. So is the trust. $23 million, managed and protected. It is not charity. It is recognition. Live well. Live freely. Richard." The words didn't sting. They anchored. They grounded. They rebuilt. My chest swelled with something fierce and quiet, a kind of justice that didn't shout, only stood tall. I unfolded the trust documents, tracing the embossed seal with the edge of my thumb. Everything was legitimate, notarized, final. Richard had prepared every detail. He left no loophole for anyone to contest. He knew exactly what the world might try to take from me, and what he believed I deserved to reclaim. The key lay in the velvet, catching the lamplight like a tiny sunrise. I lifted it, letting its weight settle into my palm. It felt heavier than it looked, solid, real, undeniable. A place, a home, a fortune, a new beginning, all waiting for me. Not because someone wanted to control me, but because someone believed in me. The tears came then, not from weakness, but from relief so deep it cracked open the quiet walls around my heart. They fell silently, each drop a small release of years I had swallowed whole. I closed my fingers gently around the key. He thought I lost everything, I murmured into the still air. I had just begun. Outside, the snow thickened, soft and white under the streetlights. Through the thin motel curtains, a faint beam reflected onto the metal of the key, making it glow like its own small star. My world had collapsed tonight. And yet here, in the smallest room of the cheapest motel, my new life had just opened like a door. Tomorrow, I would walk through it. Tonight, I let the light fill the room. Morning came quietly, slipping through the thin motel curtains, like a soft reminder that the world kept moving, even when lives broke open. I packed slowly, careful with every fold, every zipper. The key to Snowpine rested in my coat pocket, cool, solid, grounding. It felt like holding the future in my palm. Outside, the snow was fresh, untouched. Each step I took left a crisp trail behind me, a clean line cutting through the morning white. A bus pulled up with a groan, exhaust curling into the cold air. I climbed aboard, choosing a seat by the window. Denver drifted past, frosted rooftops, slow traffic, holiday banners swaying in the wind. People moved with purpose, wrapped in coats and scarves, unaware of the woman watching them rebuild her world in silence. My fingers brushed the key again. Snowpine Estate. Richard always believed in timing. If this key reached me the night I lost my home, he meant for it to be a door out, not a place to hide, but a place to begin. The bus traveled farther from the city, trading buildings for wide, open land. Pines dusted with white lined the roads. The mountains rose in the distance, steady, patient guardians. My heart eased for the first time in weeks. When the bus stopped near the Snowpine district, I stepped onto the packed snow. A wooden sign pointed toward the hill, Snowpine Estate, Showroom and Property Office. My breath formed small clouds. I walked the narrow path upward, following the glow of warm light spilling through windows at the top. The showroom door opened with a soft chime. A young woman behind the counter looked up. Blonde hair tucked neatly behind her ears, a wool scarf wrapped around her neck. Her eyes warmed instantly. "Good morning," she greeted. "Welcome to Snowpine. I'm Sophie." Her tone carried no judgment, no pity, just genuine kindness, rare, fragile, and exactly what my chest needed. I nodded slightly. "Thank you." She stepped closer, her smile gentle. "Are you here to tour the property? It's beautiful this time of year." My gaze drifted toward the wide glass windows. Through them, I saw the outline of the estate, roofline rising against the mountains, surrounded by trees brushed with frost. Soft morning light rested on the windows like a blessing. "It's my first time seeing it in person," I replied. Sophie's eyes brightened. "You picked the perfect day. The sun's just hitting the east side. It almost looks like it's glowing." A small breath left me, a near laugh. "Maybe it is." "Well," Sophie continued, grabbing a set of keys and a brochure, "I'd be happy to take you up for a closer look." Her kindness wasn't loud. It was steady. It didn't crowd. It didn't assume. It simply made space. and for the first time since Christmas night, someone had offered me space without pushing me out of another. I followed her toward the door. Outside, the snow reflected the morning light like a path leading straight to a new life. Quiet, bright, waiting. As we walked toward the estate, the key in my pocket warmed under my palm. A home waited for me. One built not from debt, not from guilt, but from respect. And I was ready to walk through its door. The showroom doors closed behind us, sealing out the wind. Warm lights glowed along the walls, reflecting off polished floors and glass cases filled with estate brochures, property models, and carved wooden decor. Everything smelled faintly of pine and cedar, Richard's favorite scents. It felt intentional, as if he were still guiding the moment. Sophie walked beside me with gentle steps. Most people fall in love with the estate right away, but I think you'll feel something deeper. Before I could respond, footsteps clipped sharply across the tile. A young woman in a fitted blazer approached, blonde highlights, perfect makeup, confidence sharp enough to cut. Her smile was tight, more for show than sincerity. And I recognized the Carter bone structure, the chin, the posture, the arrogance. Melissa Carter, Vivian's niece. She glanced at Sophie first. "Why are you taking early walk-ins? We're not a charity." Her voice was smooth and polished, but dripping with the kind of disdain only someone raised on inherited superiority could perfect. Sophie kept her composure. "Melissa, this is Mrs. Bennett. She's here to—" Melissa lifted a hand. "I can take it from here." Her gaze slid toward me, slow and assessing, like someone inspecting a thrift store donation. "Oh," she murmured. "This must be a misunderstanding." She looked me up and down, coat worn from years of use, boots dusted with snow, hair tied back in the practical style of a woman who didn't exist for anyone's entertainment. "We don't offer free coffee, lunch, or warm seating. This is a luxury showroom." Sophie stiffened. "Melissa?" "It's fine," I replied calmly. "I'm here for information on Snowpine." Melissa laughed softly. "Of course you are." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Snowpine starts at 8 figures. People don't tour it, hoping they might one day afford it." Her eyes drifted toward the exit. "Feel free to look around, but don't touch anything." Sophie's mouth parted. "Melissa, please." Melissa waved her off and continued. "We had a case last month. Someone wandered in, tried to take photos to fake a listing. Management told us to be careful with walk-ins." My stomach didn't twist or burn or flare. I simply observed her, every gesture, every assumption, every polished cruelty. Sophie stepped between us. "She's not here to do anything wrong." Melissa's expression sharpened. "And you would know how? Because she smiled at you?" She side-eyed me again. "Look, I'm not trying to be rude, but this place is high value. People try things." Sophie inhaled. "Her name is Mrs. Nora Bennett. She came to see the estate." Melissa blinked slowly. "Right, and I'm the Queen of Spain." Her tone held a snide amusement, the kind used when talking to someone considered beneath basic respect. I watched her, steady, unbothered. Silence unnerved people like Melissa. She tried again. "If you're looking for rentals, there's a kiosk downtown. If you're lost, I can call someone." "I'm exactly where I need to be," I replied. Her brows lifted. "Really? In a showroom you clearly didn't dress for?" Sophie frowned. "Melissa," but Melissa wasn't done. She circled around me slightly, observing me the way people observe discount items they'd never buy. "Look, Mrs. Bennett, was it?" She didn't wait for confirmation. "You should understand how these things work. Some places just aren't accessible. That's life." I tilted my head. "You must enjoy teaching people their place." "It's not teaching, it's reality." Sophie drew in a breath, ready to speak, but Melissa cut her off again. "And honestly, it's better we're clear now. The estate isn't for—" She motioned vaguely to my coat. "People in financial transition." "Financial transition," I echoed softly. Melissa smiled like a cat. "It's the polite term." She didn't know I had a trust account that could buy the entire hill she stood on. She didn't know the home she mocked me in was legally mine. She didn't know she had just insulted the owner of everything around her. Ignorance, when paired with arrogance, always revealed itself. Sophie's cheeks flushed with frustration. "Mrs. Bennett, we can go upstairs instead. There's a quieter lounge." Melissa stepped in front of her. "Absolutely not. That area is reserved for verified clients, and we're not letting anyone wander around without proper vetting." Her tone sharpened. "We can't risk more scam attempts." The word scam hung in the air. Sophie's hand tightened around her clipboard. "She's not a scammer." Melissa shrugged. "Prove it." I met her gaze. "No need." Melissa smiled victoriously. "Exactly." I continued. "I'll clarify it myself." With calm precision, I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out my phone. Sophie stepped closer instinctively, sensing what was coming but unsure. Melissa folded her arms smugly. "Let me guess. Google images of the house you want to pretend you'll buy?" "No," I replied. I unlocked the phone, opened my banking app, tilted the screen just slightly, enough for both of them to see the balance glowing in bold, clean numbers. $23,000. Melissa didn't gasp. She simply froze. Lips parted. Eyes widening by degrees, color draining from her perfect makeup. Her breath caught. Finally, she stammered, That can't be real." Sophie blinked at the number, then at me, understanding dawning like sunlight over ice. "Mrs. Bennett, is this—" "Yes," I answered. Melissa's heels wobbled, confidence cracking like cheap ceramic. "How? Why?" The floor seemed to shift beneath her. I slid the phone back into my coat pocket with a quiet ease. "Still concerned?" I asked gently. "About me being in the wrong place?" "No, I didn't—" Melissa's voice faltered. "I didn't know." "People rarely do," I replied. Melissa swallowed hard. If you'd like a tour, I can—" "That won't be necessary." I turned to Sophie. "I'd prefer she take me." Sophie straightened, warmth and relief washing through her features. "Of course." Melissa's face burned a deep shade of humiliation. "That's fine. Absolutely fine." But the blow wasn't finished. A manager stepped out from a side office, drawn by the tension. "What's going on here?" Sophie spoke first, firm, measured. "Mrs. Bennett is here to finalize her purchase of Snowpine." Melissa nearly choked. The manager nodded respectfully toward me. "Mrs. Bennett, we're honored. Would you like refreshments while Sophie prepares the documents?" Melissa opened her mouth, but nothing emerged. The humiliation was complete. Clean, cold, deserved. I gave her one last calm look. $23 million, I murmured. "Still think I'm here for free coffee?" Her knees almost buckled. Sophie led me toward the glass office upstairs. The stairs reflected the soft winter light outside, casting a quiet glow around us. For the first time that day, I sensed my brother's presence, not as memory, but as reassurance. His estate, my name, my dignity, everything Melissa believed she could judge, now stood under my control, and the silence between each step felt like justice, not loud, not vengeful, just right. The glass-walled office was warm and bright, sunlight spreading across the polished table like a soft invitation. Sophie placed a folder in front of me with careful hands, still stunned from the revelation downstairs. She didn't ask questions, she simply respected the moment. But Melissa wasn't done tripping over her own arrogance. The elevator chimed behind us. Melissa burst out, phone in hand, face flushed with panic. "Mrs. Bennett, wait. There's an issue with your account. I need to verify it with security." Sophie stiffened. "Melissa, don't." Melissa ignored her. "I ran a quick system check. That balance, it doesn't match any local profiles. It looks suspicious." Her gaze sharpened at me. "Honestly, it looks hacked." There it was, the second blow of humiliation trying desperately to land. Calmly, I closed the folder. "You're accusing me of fraud." "I'm protecting company assets." Melissa lifted her chin. We can't risk reputation damage. Sophie's voice rose with shock. She's the buyer, not a thief. Melissa scoffed. Money doesn't appear out of thin air. A cold smile curled on her lips. And her story doesn't add up. I met her stare, unblinking. What story do you think I have? She crossed her arms. A motel address listed on file, no job record in the last month, walking in with worn clothing. Suddenly flashing millions? Melissa shook her head. Criminal patterns look exactly like this. The accusation was sharp, but desperation sharper. Sophie stepped forward. Melissa, enough. Melissa didn't back down. I'm calling the police. And she did, right in front of us. Her voice dropped to a falsely controlled tone. Yes, we have a suspected case of account manipulation and attempted fraud at Snowpine Estate. Sophie gasped. You can't do this. Oh, I can. Melissa's eyes flicked toward me. People like her pull stunts like this all the time. It's always the quiet ones with sad eyes. Quiet was a word she shouldn't have used. Quiet was power. I leaned back in the chair. Let them come. Minutes later, 2 officers entered, 1 male, 1 female. Calm, professional, scanning the room in practiced sweeps. Melissa hurried toward them. Officers, thank goodness, that's her. She pointed at me with an eager venom. She showed a suspicious bank balance and attempted to mislead us about buying the estate. The male officer nodded toward me. Ma'am, could we see some identification? Of course. I placed my ID on the table. Sophie hovered nearby, almost protective. Melissa hovered too, like a vulture waiting for validation. The female officer held my license. Nora Bennett? Yes, Melissa snorted. You see, no matching record for that trust account. I reached into my coat pocket, slow, deliberate, and placed a small folded document on the table. This may help. Sophie recognized it instantly. That's notarized. Melissa paused mid-breath. The officer unfolded it carefully. The emblem of Nolan Trust Holdings gleamed at the top. Richard's signature below. The officer's brows lifted slightly. This is an active trust, $23 million in assets. Melissa blinked. Hard. Let me see that, she demanded, stepping forward. The officer blocked her with a raised hand. Ma'am, step back. Sophie exhaled in relief. The officer continued reading. Beneficiary, Nora Elaine Bennett. Trustee approval date, last month. She looked at me with newfound respect. Everything appears legitimate. Melissa's voice cracked. No, that can't be real. She must have forged it. The female officer turned slowly. Are you accusing her of forging a notarized trust document? Melissa froze. The officer added, because that's a felony accusation. Sophie covered her mouth, trying not to smile. Melissa's throat bobbed. I didn't mean... I just thought... You thought, I replied gently, that someone who looked like me couldn't possibly afford the world you live in. Melissa's lips parted, but no sound followed. The male officer closed the folder. Mrs. Bennett, you're cleared, completely. Sophie's shoulders relaxed. Melissa's stiffened. The officer turned to her. And for you, there will be a report filed with management regarding false reporting. You escalated without evidence. Melissa blanched. I misunderstood. Misunderstanding, the officer replied, doesn't involve calling 911 on a client. The female officer added, You're lucky this didn't go further. Melissa's gaze dropped to the floor, humiliation burning her cheeks. Sophie stepped beside me. Mrs. Bennett, let's continue your purchase. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I retrieved my phone, tapped the screen, and played an audio file. Ethan's voice filled the office. Clear, cold, merciless. She's just an ATM, Laura. My mother exists to help us. She'll hand over money because she has to. Melissa's head jerked up in horror, not at the content, but because my calm had teeth. Sophie's eyes widened. He really said that to you? The officers exchanged glances, sympathetic, uncomfortable. I paused the audio. That is the life I walked away from. Melissa swallowed hard. Her arrogance, her confidence, her entire persona flickered like a dying bulb. The male officer cleared his throat. Everything is in order here. Mrs. Bennett, if you need anything further, let us know. We're here to help, the female officer added gently. They left quietly. Sophie approached Melissa, voice steady but firm. Go downstairs, I'll finish the file. Melissa barely moved. Sophie, please, don't report. Go, Sophie repeated. Melissa walked out with stiff steps, shattered, humiliated, exposed. As soon as the door shut, Sophie turned toward me. Thank you for standing your ground. People don't usually do that. I met her warm gaze. People like Melissa don't usually get corrected. Sophie exhaled softly. She did today. She then lifted the folder again, a gentle respect in her hands. Let's finalize Snowpine, Mrs. Bennett. I nodded, not with triumph, with peace. Justice wasn't loud. It simply arrived, quietly, cleanly, when truth had a place to stand. And today, it stood with me. Snowpine's paperwork was nearly complete by midday. The estate was now mine in writing, signature, seal, and law. Sophie handled each page with the care of someone who understood what dignity looked like when it returned home. You should celebrate, she encouraged softly, as she placed the final folder into a leather envelope. You deserve something beautiful today. Her timing was perfect. There was one thing I had always wanted. One thing I had never allowed myself to buy when every dollar needed to go toward Ethan's college fees, rent, medical bills, or emergencies. The one luxury I always postponed. A piano, a real one. Not the secondhand keyboard I played quietly on nights Ethan slept feverish as a boy. Not the thrift store brown upright I repaired year after year. A piano worthy of peace. So I walked to the music boutique 2 blocks down, the envelope tucked under my arm. Afternoon sun glittered against the windows, casting small flares of warm light across the snow. A bell chimed softly when I entered. Rows of violins, cellos, and keyboards lined the walls, but the center display stopped my breath. A white grand piano, sleek, luminous, its curves soft like fallen snow, its surface shining under a skylight that poured gold onto the keys. And beside it stood Vivian Carter. Her fur coat draped over her shoulders, pearls resting like frozen tears along her collarbone. Her posture screamed entitlement, the kind that filled every room before she spoke a word. Laura must have told her I left. Maybe she came to buy something celebratory. Maybe she wanted to decorate the life she built on my son's spine. Her eyes widened when she noticed me. Oh, she murmured, surprise flickering into a polite smile. Nora, here for browsing? She glanced knowingly at my coat, at my boots, both worn by years of sacrifice. I stepped closer to the piano instead of answering. A salesman approached Vivian immediately. Mrs. Carter, would you like to resume your demonstration? Vivian gestured at me with casual dismissal. In a moment, let her look. It doesn't hurt anyone. Her voice floated with false kindness, the same tone she used the night she suggested I become someone's live-in helper. I lowered myself onto the piano bench. My fingers hovered over the keys. I didn't press them yet. I simply let them feel the cool surface, the promise beneath. Vivian raised a brow. You play? Since childhood. She chuckled softly. How lovely. Music is soothing, especially when life becomes unpredictable. Unpredictable. Her polite way of saying, the night you were kicked out, the night we mapped your future for you. I let the insult drift off me like dust. Then I pressed a single key. A soft, round tone spilled into the quiet air. The salesman brightened. Beautiful touch. That piano responds well to players with control. Vivian tilted her head. Play something, if you can. I placed both hands on the keys. Moonlight Sonata. Not the whole thing, just the opening phrase, slow and restrained, letting each note bloom fully before the next arrived. The room changed. Even Vivian felt it. The shadows softened. Dust motes swirled lazily in the skylight. The white lacquer under my hands glowed with each shift of my wrist. Music filled every corner, unrushed, unbegging, unbroken. A dignity she could never touch. Her expression faltered for the first time. When I finished, silence followed like a respectful bow. The salesman stared. Vivian's lips parted slightly, her ego knocked a step back. That, the salesman breathed, was extraordinary. Vivian recovered her poise with a brittle laugh. Charming, Nora, truly. But this piano is a high-end purchase, reserved for clients with certain commitments. I reached into my bag and placed the Snowpine folder on the bench beside me. The embossed seal gleamed under the light. Vivian's eyes snapped to it, then widened. She recognized the Nolan seal instantly. Richard had done business with her husband's company years ago. She knew exactly what that emblem meant. I rose from the bench. I'd like to take this piano. The salesman blinked. Purchase? Yes. Vivian's smile ruptured. Nora, darling, this is a luxury instrument. It's not for... For who? I asked quietly. She swallowed. For casual buyers. I opened the folder just enough for her to see the purchase contract of Snowpine Estate. My name on every line. My signature stamped beside the trust account. Color drained from her face. The salesman straightened immediately. Mrs. Bennett, we'd be honored. Delivery is complimentary for Snowpine residents. Vivian swayed slightly, shock turning her posture brittle. You bought Snowpine? Finalized today. But how? When? You... Her entire worldview trembled. The woman she mocked for losing her job now owned the estate she used to brag about. I closed the folder. Every dollar I spend was earned with dignity. Vivian couldn't find her voice. The salesman beamed. Shall we process the payment? Yes, I replied. As he guided me to the counter, Vivian stood frozen beside the white piano, silenced not by cruelty, but by truth. I passed her on my way out. She didn't look at me, not because she didn't want to, but because she couldn't. Some reflections are too harsh to face in daylight. When the delivery truck rolled toward Snowpine that evening, the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting a final beam of light across the estate's windows. My new home, my new beginning, my music, and for the first time in years, the silence around me sounded like peace. Snowpine's movers had just finished placing the white piano near the window when my phone vibrated. Sophie handed it to me gently. It's been buzzing non-stop, she whispered. The screen was flooded with missed calls. All from Ethan, all ignored. I placed the phone face down on the counter and brewed tea instead. But minutes later, a knock rattled the front door, sharp, rushed, desperate. Sophie peeked through the side window. He's outside. Of course he was. The same son who once spoke to me like I owed him a lifetime of labor was now shaking in the December cold, glancing at the camera as if begging it for mercy. I opened the door 1 inch. Ethan's cheeks were red from the wind. His voice wavered between anger and panic. Mom, what are you doing? Why are you ignoring me? You're here, I replied quietly. Speak. He exhaled shakily. Laura's parents, Vivian's friends, they're all calling me. Everyone saw you at Snowpine. Do you know what you've done? I bought a home. You humiliated me. That part wasn't intentional. It was simply a side effect. He flinched. Laura's voice suddenly rose from the driveway. She stepped forward in her long coat, makeup perfect despite the wind. Nora, how dare you stroll into Snowpine with a deed like some queen? Her bitterness dripped like acid. I met her stare calmly. Ownership tends to give people confidence. Laura scoffed. You're unbelievable. Then she turned to Ethan, her voice lowering just enough for me to hear. This is your fault. You told me she'd be broke for life. Now look at us, laughingstock of the entire neighborhood. His jaw tightened. Mom, stop making things worse. You came to my door, I reminded. What is it you want? He hesitated. His eyes were swollen, anger mixed with something else. Fear. People online are attacking me. His breathing hitched. I don't know what Laura told them, but now everyone thinks we're leeches. They're mocking me in comments, in group chats. Someone even posted a meme of me kneeling in the snow. Laura spat. And whose fault is that? You should have told your mother to stay quiet. I lifted a brow. I've said nothing online. Laura crossed her arms. You don't have to. The entire city is talking about your little performance at the showroom. That wasn't a performance, I replied evenly. That was a purchase. Her nostrils flared. She lunged one step closer. Stop correcting me. Sophie appeared beside me with a stiff posture. You both need to leave the property line. But Ethan ignored her. Mom, please, I need your help. People are tearing me apart on the internet. They're saying I've been mooching off you for years. Laura barked a humorless laugh. As if they're wrong. He shot her a wounded glare. Can you let me talk? No, because you ruined everything. Her voice cracked, and suddenly it was clear. She wasn't angry because she cared about him. She was angry because she lost status. She looked at me again. You should give him a statement. Tell people he didn't do anything wrong. He did. Ethan winced. Mom, you raised your voice at me. You pushed me out of your home. You made assumptions about my life without asking a single question. Tell me, Ethan, what exactly did you do right? His face broke. I panicked. I was stressed. Laura's parents. Your choices were still yours. He rubbed his forehead, spiraling. Social media thinks I'm a monster. Everyone's calling me the son who kicked his mom out. It's going viral, Mom. Laura jabbed a finger at him. Fix it. I warned you she'd embarrass us one day. I told you she didn't know her place. Sophie stepped forward. That's enough. But Laura didn't stop. You think buying a piano changes who you are, Nora? You're still the same woman who worked behind other people's kitchens. Don't pretend you belong in Snowpine. I let out a quiet breath. And yet, here I am. Laura's face twitched. Then she snapped into a cold, calculating mask. Fine. If you won't help us publicly, at least loan Ethan something. A little money to calm things down. Help with our mortgage before the rates reset again. Ah, there it was. The real request. Ethan's silence confirmed it. I looked at him, not with anger, but with a clarity I should have had years ago. Why didn't you come to me earlier, before the shouting, before the insults? His voice thinned. I didn't think you'd understand. I would have, before you chose disrespect. His shoulders caved inward. Laura stepped closer again, her words a venomous whisper. He's your son. Do your duty. My duty, I repeated softly, was completed long ago. Ethan's lip trembled. Mom, people online are destroying my reputation. You built it. He shook his head in disbelief. You're really not going to save me? No. The word landed like a judge's gavel. Laura snapped. Unbelievable. No wonder your husband left. No wonder Ethan turned out like this. With a mother this cold. Sophie's voice erupted, firm and steady. You need to leave. Ethan swallowed hard. Mom, please, if you just come on a live stream with me. No. He blinked rapidly. I'm begging you. And I am listening, I answered calmly. But I'm also done. Laura yanked Ethan's arm. We're leaving. We'll handle this ourselves. As they walked away, Ethan turned back one last time, eyes shining with a mix of regret and disbelief. You really changed. No, I answered. I finally stopped shrinking. He looked down, defeated. Laura pulled him into the car, slamming the door. Their engine roared, tires skidding against the snow before disappearing down the hill. The street fell silent again. Sophie let out a breath. You handled that beautifully. I closed the door gently. He chose his side long before today. But I knew one thing with unshakable certainty. This was not the end. It was the opening shot. The storm began that same evening. Sophie had just finished wiping the piano keys when my phone buzzed again. A notification popped across the top. Ethan Bennett is live. Of course he was. I tapped the screen. His face filled the frame. Puffy eyes, trembling lips, the perfect image of a wounded son. I recognized the tactic instantly. Sympathy farming, just like his wife's family always taught him. "Everyone," Ethan murmured to the camera, "I just want you to understand. I never wanted to fight with my mother. I love her. She left me. She abandoned me the moment she got rich." Comments began pouring in. "Stay strong, sweetheart. Moms like that don't deserve sons. She only cares about money." I felt Sophie's eyes turn toward me. He's building an entire narrative. He's desperate, but he's convincing people. "That," I said quietly, "is why it's time." I opened the app and created a new account. Nora Bennett Official. Nothing fancy, no filter, just my steady breath in a quiet room. Then I hit Go Live. Within 30 seconds, thousands poured in, pulled by Ethan's audience jumping over, pulled by curiosity, pulled by the promise of truth. The chat exploded the moment my face appeared. "She's here!" Finally, the mom speaks. "Where were you when your son needed you?" I looked straight into the camera, my tone flat and calm. "Good evening." The comments slowed. People leaned in. "I hear many of you want answers. You will have them. But first, I want to be clear. Cutting ties with Ethan was not an act of anger. It was self-preservation." The feed surged. "Self-preservation from your own child?" She sounds cold. I rested a hand on the white piano beside me. "If you want warmth, listen to fairy tales. If you want truth, stay here." More viewers joined. Ethan's numbers dropped. Mine doubled. I continued. "Tonight, since Ethan has chosen the public stage, we will use the public stage." I tapped the tablet beside me and played an audio clip. Ethan's voice filled the stream. "She should move into a senior home. They'll let her clean for residence credit. It's perfect." The chat exploded. "No way that's real." Did he actually say that? He pushed his mom toward a nursing home? I lifted my gaze. That was recorded on my home's security system. Ethan knew it. Laura knew it. Sophie stepped into the frame, giving a short nod. "I was there. I heard the whole thing." Next clip. Laura's voice. "Your mother is useless. Put her somewhere cheap. She'll survive." Screaming comments flooded the page. "That's evil. How dare they talk about their mother like that?" Mom deserved better. I let the outrage simmer before speaking again. There is more. On screen, I swiped to a set of scanned documents. My late brother Richard's notarized letter, the trust confirmation, and Snowpine's deed. "This inheritance," I explained calmly, "was not from luck. It was designated years ago by my brother, a man who believed dignity mattered." I paused. "Ethan believed my life ended when I lost my job. He didn't know it was the beginning of my freedom." More comments. "Now it makes sense. She didn't get rich overnight. He tried to discard his own mother before knowing anything." Someone typed, "Why didn't you tell him earlier?" I met the camera head on. Because respect should not depend on wealth. If someone loves you only when you have money, that is not love. For a moment, the chat went quiet. No insults, no arguments, just a held breath across tens of thousands of screens. Then another wave appeared. "This is painful, but true. She's right. My kids changed when I retired too." I continued. "I worked for decades. I raised Ethan alone. I sacrificed everything so he could stand straight. But he chose convenience over loyalty." The chat reacted again, angrier this time, but not at me. A notification popped up. "Ethan has joined the stream." His face appeared in a tiny bubble at the edge, eyes glassy, breathing shallow. "You're twisting everything," he muttered. "You're making me look like a monster." "No," I answered. "You made the choices. I'm only providing the receipts." He shook his head violently. "I just wanted support." "You wanted finances," I corrected, "not support." "That's not fair." "It is accurate." His voice rose. "Mom, stop embarrassing me. You're destroying my life." "No, Ethan. You tried to destroy mine." The chat erupted. "She's right. Take accountability." "He only cries when he's caught." He stared at the comments streaming past him. "Why are you all believing her? She's making me look like trash." "Ethan," I replied, still calm, "your behavior revealed itself long before I opened my mouth." Laura suddenly entered his frame, yanking his arm. "End this, now!" But Ethan swatted her hand away. "You started this! You pushed me!" His breathing turned ragged. His eyes darted around like a trapped animal. "Mom, just take it back. Tell them I didn't mean it. Please." I felt a small ache deep in my chest, but not enough to bend. Not anymore. "No." He froze. "Actions have consequences," I continued quietly, "even for children we love." The comment section exploded again. Laura snapped, "You heartless woman." Sophie leaned into frame. "And you?" Her tone sharpened. "What's your excuse?" Laura's face went rigid. I ended it there. "Thank you all for listening," I told the audience. "I wish you clarity in your own homes. Good night." And I tapped end stream. Silence filled the room. Sophie stood beside me, stunned. "That went everywhere. Do you realize the numbers?" "It doesn't matter." "It does. The world heard you." I wrapped my fingers around the piano's cool edge. "Then let them remember one thing." Sophie waited. "Kindness," I said slowly, "is not a permission slip for abuse." Outside, Ethan and Laura's voices rose in the dark, blaming each other, cursing the crowd, panicking about reputation slipping through their hands. By morning, their world would burn, but for the first time in decades, mine felt clean. The morning after the live stream, Denver felt strangely quiet, like the city itself was holding its breath. Snowpine's long windows glowed with pale winter light as I walked into the study where Martin Cole waited. He had a folder in front of him, neatly sealed, like a verdict wrapped in paper. "You're ready?" Martin observed, adjusting his glasses. "I've been ready for years." He opened the folder. Court documents, screenshots, transcripts, everything Ethan had thrown at me in the dark corners of the internet, now cataloged in daylight. "Your live stream changed the field," Martin noted, "but today changes the law." A firm knock echoed across the estate. Through the frosted glass, 2 officers stood tall. Officer Reyes greeted me with a polite nod. "Mrs. Bennett, are you prepared to proceed with the filing?" "Yes." He turned to Martin. "Mr. Cole, your affidavit is complete?" "It is," Martin confirmed, "and airtight." We stepped out into the cold, breath turning to mist. The ride to the courthouse felt short, almost too short for what it represented. When we arrived, people lingered on the courthouse steps, murmuring, glancing toward me as recognition flickered. The live stream had gone everywhere. Inside, the courtroom hummed with tension. Ethan and Laura sat across the aisle. Ethan's leg bounced violently. Laura kept twisting the hem of her sweater, eyes darting like a cornered fox. They looked smaller than I remembered. Judge Randall entered. The room rose. "Let's begin," the judge instructed. Martin stood first. "Your Honor, we are bringing forward a civil case for defamation, targeted harassment, and financial interference. We will provide evidence, including recorded audio, online broadcasts, and verbal admissions made by the defendants." Ethan's jaw tensed so hard his cheek twitched. The judge turned to him. "Mr. Bennett, do you have representation?" Ethan's voice cracked. "My attorney withdrew yesterday." "Of course he did." Laura elbowed him sharply. "Just explain your side." He glared at her but faced the judge. "Your Honor, my mother is exaggerating. She took everything I said out of context. I was emotional." The judge raised one brow. "Your broadcasts lasted 15 consecutive days." A wave of whispers spread across the gallery. Laura leaned forward. "We didn't mean harm. People online misunderstood." Martin clicked a remote. Ethan's live stream filled the courtroom screen. His own voice thundered back at him. "She abandoned me. She only cares about money. She threw me into the street." Ethan curled into himself, as if shrinking might erase the sound. Martin played clip after clip, each more damning than the last. Online posts where Ethan encouraged strangers to send hate, comments he highlighted for sympathy, snide messages Laura had written under fake accounts. The judge's expression hardened. When the final clip faded, Martin shut off the screen. "Your Honor, these are not misunderstandings. They are calculated attacks." The judge turned to Ethan. "Do you dispute the authenticity?" Ethan swallowed, eyes damp. "No." The judge shifted his attention to Laura. "And you?" Her lips trembled. "No, Your Honor." Martin continued. Mrs. Bennett's reputation, safety, and mental health were directly impacted. Given the number of viewers, the financial damages, and the malicious intent, Laura cut in, panic flaring. "Malicious? We were desperate!" Her voice broke into a sharp plea. "Her brother left her $23 million. She didn't tell us anything. She kept everything secret." The courtroom stiffened. Judge Randall fixed his gaze on her. "Mrs. Hale Bennett, her inheritance has no bearing on your actions. An adult child does not gain rights over a parent's assets." The color drained from Laura's face. Ethan's shoulders crumpled. "I just wanted her to care." My breath stayed even. "You wanted my wallet, not my care." Ethan flinched as if struck. Judge Randall leaned forward. "Mr. Bennett, regardless of emotions, your online conduct caused severe harm. You weaponized public perception against your mother." Silence pressed into the walls. The judge lifted his gavel slightly. "This court finds you liable for defamation, cyber harassment, and intentional emotional distress." Laura gasped. Ethan stared at the floor, motionless. "Mr. and Mrs. Bennett," the judge continued, "you are ordered to pay restitution for all legal fees, plus punitive damages. Furthermore, you are prohibited from posting, sharing, or insinuating any defamatory content regarding Mrs. Bennett. Violation will result in criminal charges." The gavel struck wood. Decision delivered. Laura collapsed back into her seat, whispering frantically. Ethan's breathing became uneven. His hands shook against the table. I stood, not triumphant, only free. As I walked out of the courtroom, Laura stumbled after me. "Wait, Nora, please." I turned. She grabbed for words that didn't exist. We didn't think it would go this far." "You pushed it this far." Her face twisted. "Can't we work something out? You don't have to take the money, just remove the order." "Ethan is struggling." Struggling did not stop him from hurting me. She flinched at my tone, calm, sharp, final. Ethan appeared behind her, eyes glossy. "Mom, please, don't leave us like this. I'm sorry. I'll change. I swear." The hallway chilled. People slowed to watch. "You promised change every time you needed something," I answered. "I believed it once, never again." His mouth opened, but nothing formed. "You didn't lose a mother today," I added quietly. "You lost access." Laura's breath hitched. Ethan pressed a hand to his forehead, voice cracking. "I messed up. I know. Please don't walk away." But the truth had already settled deep inside me. "I walked away the night you threw me into the snow," I replied. "Today I simply closed the door." I stepped past them. Outside, the winter sun cut through clouds, bright, clean, unfiltered. Martin joined me at the top of the courthouse steps. "How do you feel?" "Lighter," I murmured, as if something heavy finally left my chest. "It's over," he nodded. "No," I corrected softly. "It's settled." And with that, I descended the steps toward the waiting car, toward Snowpine, toward the first real breath of my own life. Snowpine woke quietly on the first morning after the verdict. Frost clung to the windows like delicate lace, and the distant peaks glowed under the pale winter sun. For the first time in years, there was no heaviness on my chest, no echo of worry lingering behind my ribs. Only calm, only breath. I pushed open the balcony doors, letting the crisp mountain air wash across my face. Below, the lake shimmered beneath a thin sheet of ice, sunlight breaking across it in soft ribbons of silver. Birds hopped across the snowy railing as if they already knew this place belonged to peace again. I walked slowly through the house, through rooms that once held nothing but memories of my brother's silence, now warmed by my own footsteps. The piano waited in the corner of the sunroom, its white surface glowing under the morning light. I touched the lid, letting my fingers rest on its cool, smooth finish. It felt like a full circle, humiliation erased, dignity restored. When I pressed the first key, the note floated through the house, gentle and warm, blending with the scent of fresh coffee drifting from the kitchen. Snowflake shadows moved across the floor as I played, soft and wandering. There was no audience, no judgment, no weight, just sound and breath, and a life finally uncluttered by demands. After a while, I carried my mug to the garden outside. The path was lined with thin shoots pushing through the snow, flowers I planted weeks ago, not expecting them to bloom until spring. Yet here they were, stubborn, reaching for the sun. I smiled at their persistence. Richard would have liked this, I thought. He always believed peace wasn't something you waited for. It was something you built. Each brick, each choice, each boundary. A faint breeze moved through the trees, scattering tiny crystals of frost into the air. They sparkled like confetti from some invisible celebration. Inside, my phone buzzed on the counter. It had been buzzing all night. News outlets, online groups, strangers who wanted to turn my story into a headline. I ignored them all. Their noise didn't belong here. I set the phone face down and listened to the quiet settling over the estate. There was a softness to it, a gentleness I had forgotten existed. For decades, my life had been noise, hospitals, jobs, endless responsibilities, a son who saw me only as a lifeline to squeeze. Now, in this silence, I could finally hear myself. I brewed another pot of coffee and carried the steaming cup out toward the frozen lake. My boots left crisp prints on the snow. The air tasted clean, like a new start. Near the water's edge stood the wooden box Richard once kept locked in his study, now resting on a small stone table I'd placed there. I opened it gently. The old key lay inside, the same key that changed everything the night Ethan kicked me out. Snow pine light reflected off its worn metal, and for a moment it felt like Richard was standing beside me again, quiet, steady, reminding me that some gifts don't come from wealth, but from trust. I closed the box and stood there a long time, watching thin cracks shift across the icy lake surface as the sun climbed higher. Life moves, even when we don't notice. Behind me, Snow Pine's tall windows glittered like mirrors. I saw my reflection faintly, older, steadier, softer than the woman who once begged her own son for space to breathe. I wasn't angry anymore. Pain fades when truth settles. Resentment dissolves when peace finally arrives. My story didn't end in revenge, though justice had been served. It ended in clarity. By noon, the sun melted patches of snow on the garden stones, revealing stubborn greens sprouting beneath. I knelt and touched the earth gently. Grow, my mind whispered. Not as an order, just an invitation. The kettle whistled inside. I took my time walking back, letting the quiet stay with me. The world felt lighter with every step. In the kitchen, I poured tea into a ceramic cup I bought during my first week at Snowpine. White glaze, blue rim, simple, perfect. I carried it to the living room and curled into the armchair by the window. The view stretched endlessly. Mountains, snow-covered pines, a lake catching light like a mirror. Years of sacrifice, years of silence, years of carrying someone else's weight. All of it finally drifted away, like the steam rising from my cup. A thought emerged, soft, steady, honest. Kindness should never come at the cost of self-destruction. I breathed it in, as if my soul had been waiting to hear it aloud, not spoken to anyone, not directed at anyone. It was a truth meant for me alone. Outside, the afternoon sun poured across the lake until it shimmered like glass. I leaned back, letting warmth settle over my shoulders. For the first time since I was a young woman, my life belonged entirely to me. Snowpine wasn't just a home. It was the closing of one lifetime of pain and the beginning of another filled with peace. The past could rest now, and so could I. As I sat by the window of Snowpine that evening, watching the last line of sunlight slip across the lake, I realized something simple and steady. Life always finds a way to return to peace when we stop carrying what was never ours to hold. If you stayed with me through this journey, through the cold nights, the hard truths, and the quiet victory, thank you. Your time, your heart, and your presence here mean more than you know. If this story touched you, even a little, feel free to stay with our community. You can subscribe if you'd like to hear more stories like this, stories about strength, family, and the kind of justice that arrives quietly but powerfully. And if you have a moment, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I always love seeing how far these stories travel. Thank you for being here with me today. Take good care of yourself, and I hope to see you in the next video.